we were thinking, why are we doing this? What has inspired us to actually go on this insane adventure of opening up this, the Hyperfocus HQ, the design studio that we always wanted to work for? And we came up with 5 studios that inspired us to start Hyperfocus. What is good, everybody? And I know it has been an absolute minute, but the reason for that is that we have had our vacations, our summer holidays for the last 2 weeks, which I think has been well deserved. It has been a crazy year for us. So the first one is Collins, and Collins has been an absolute inspiration. Number one for Collins himself, Mr. Brian Collins. He is an amazing, inspirational person, and an incredible figure to have at the forefront of a company. And I just love his story, where he came from and how he got to where he is today, and the passion that he has. Even though the guy is in his 50s, he still is going strong and feels like this is almost somewhat the beginning. If you turn and look at the portfolio of Collins, you see just a long list of best practices, which I'm sure you guys have also referenced and also looked for inspiration from when designing and building your own brands. For instance, to name but a few, projects like the Spotify rebrand, the recent Robin Hood branding, Twitch, MailChimp, Dropbox, Target, Nike, Facebook, the list just goes on and on and on. And Airbnb, of course, that is a channel favorite. So Collins definitely was one of the agencies, role models, figures that inspired us to open Hyperfocus. So number 2 is Instrument. Instrument are a American design, digital branding studio, started by JD Hodge, Justin Lewis, and Vince La Vescia. I'm not sure if that's pronounced right. I do apologize, Vince, but I very much doubt you're watching this. But I listened to quite a few podcasts from JD Hodge, and I love where he came from. He comes from kind of humble beginnings. He was a skateboarder. He has roots in subculture, which is very similar to Jan and I, both growing up skateboarding. He found branding and the whole idea of belonging through skateboarding, and took that kind of mindset and continued with that, and fell in love with the idea of storytelling and brand and creating these worlds and a place to belong from his experience of the subculture that he was a part of. And now today, Instrument are a pretty big, successful design studio, or I don't know if you can call them a studio anymore because they're pretty big. They say, we believe in making the best work and being the best to work with. This is their perspective on actually bringing people in. From the outset, I really like how they seem to really enjoy and love the community of the people that they work with. Everybody's really well kind of presented, and I love the terminology. The terminology on the website is very, very human and very, very approachable. Their main claim is, we use the power of design and technology to solve complex problems and transform businesses. So Instrument, as of their background, some of the guys that I've followed and learned about, and their vision, and the way that they use technology to really push forward this holistic idea of digital branding. Number 3 is Oslo-based Heydays, and when you say Heydays, for us, we immediately think super cool. They have some incredible design. They have a fantastic, very tight-knit design team behind them, so they're not huge. They keep it small and compact, which is something that we definitely want to do. We want to just have the people working with us and working around us that are super dedicated, love their craft, and really have a shared vision for creating great branded experiences with beautifully executed design. And they say on their website, they are shaping what is next. For me, always going back to the Heydays website and the brand, I love how they break down everything into its simplest form. Everything has a reason, there's beautiful colors and geometry that play out in their design. For me, Heydays just seems like a very, very purist studio. They're obviously driven by reason, and there's a lot of strategy that goes into their work, but there is a beautiful craftsmanship in everything that they do. They also talk about turning great ideas into unique experiences, and I love that. It's a very, very simple idea in one sentence, but it says so much, and it's something that we strive for, and it's something that we totally believe in, and it's somewhat sometimes a validation to see other companies with the same kind of mindset moving in a similar direction and making and putting their own stamp on it. And that's why Heydays is definitely one of the companies that inspired us to start Hyperfocus. All right, Dixon, baxi. So this for me actually is relatively new. I didn't actually know about Dixon baxi up until maybe around about a year ago when Jan introduced me to them, because Jan, with his previous agency, had the chance to work with them on a project. So I had a look into them, and yeah, I immediately saw them as most definitely a best practice. Seeing the guys who actually run Dixon baxi were somewhat, I think, of a revelation for me, because I also saw so much in these guys that was similar to my story, to my journey. The art background, the studying of art and graphic design, and round about that time when they were also getting into understanding what graphic design was, it was a very, very interesting space. You know, we had companies like the Attic or the Designers Republic. We had superstar designers like Paula Shear and Neville Brody. All these guys were shaping a scene at that time. And it seems like the guys who started Dixon baxi were definitely part of that movement, or they were part of, very, very much inspired at that time by what was going on in the graphic design scene. And to see how they talk about their work today is super inspiring, because again, it is somewhat reflective of a similar kind of journey. And this just gets me super, super excited about the fact that all the stuff in the past is still somewhat relevant today, because we're still trying to tell stories. We're still trying to create beautiful experiences, and they love design as a craft. And this is something that I feel sometimes can be lost, or in bigger companies, design just becomes a commodity. It's another tick on the paperwork to say, yes, we have a designer on the project. It's not seen as being something that is embraced and elevated. And Dixon and baxi definitely, as much as they have their strategy, all the technology behind the stuff that they're doing expressively with brands and telling great stories, they still elevate design, and that is super cool. And that is something that, as a creative, as a freelancer for such a long time, was something I always tried to bring into my teams and into projects that we were working on. But now I'm able to bring it as a fundamental part of what we do here in the design studio. So Dixon baxi, respect. Another reason why we started Hyperfocus. The next one on the list comes from Jan, but I'm here to represent Jan's perspective on this, and in my opinion also they are very, very, very cool. Accept and Proceed is the next studio that has definitely had an impact on us. Their plethora of different types of clients that they have, but their execution of very, very cool contemporary design has been a huge inspiration for us. They basically say we work across multiple categories, from sport, fashion, and consumer electronics to real estate and food, whether we're designing packaging, branding, film, digital communication, or a retail space. All our work is united by its ability to engage and create lasting connections with our consumers. So this idea of this holistic approach, and very much looking at environmental design, looking about how spaces and everything around you affect your decisions, your mood, your relationship with the stories that the brands are laying out for you to experience, is definitely something that we love. And when we look at companies like Accept and Proceed, we see that there is an amazing agency out there doing exactly that in the right way. So again, Accept and Proceed has been a very, very good and somewhat cool inspiration for us at Hyperfocus. 1986, an absolute eon ago. Ian Anderson and Nick Phillips started the Designers Republic. And maybe to some of the younger audience out there, the Designers Republic means nothing, but to me, they were the holy grail. They were one of the agencies that were, back in the day, what everybody inspired to be. Round about when PlayStation 1 came out, they were hired to design the graphics for the classic game Wipeout. And this was one of the first times that you really saw graphic design playing a role in video games, and actually designed for that purpose. And it was like something we'd never seen before. And it was definitely their kind of stamp that they put on it. It was their trademark look, or something that became their trademark look, that inspired an entire generation. And they went on to do some amazing stuff working for Gatecrasher, for example, a very renowned club night in the UK. They revolutionized the design. NY Sushi. NY Sushi was a drum and bass night, and collecting the flyers from them were like rocking horse shit, man. They were super fucking cool and very hard to get hold of. But if you had like a collection of Designers Republic flyers, that was the shit. And they continued to inspire me for a very long time. And one quick story, I remember once, they were Sheffield based, and I was in a place called the Custard Factory, which is where they were based. And I didn't actually know that at the time. And I was in the Custard Factory seeing a client at some point, and I saw on one of the doors the Designers Republic logo, and I was like, man, that's cool, they're by the Designers Republic. Then I asked one of the guys in the studio that I was in, you know the guys over there, they got the Designers Republic? And he was like, they are the Designers Republic. I was like, what? So I kind of gingerly crept down the hallway and looked through the window. I mean, in retrospect, I should have not, but I was a shy young man. I looked through the window, and there in all the glory was the Designers Republic studio, and I was almost brought to tears. It was somewhat heavenly. And from that day, I thought, at some point, I want to have something like that. And let's say Hyperfocus is not exactly the Designers Republic. Designers Republic were very much of a time, but that kind of dream and kind of childlike motivation of what it could be, based on looking at your idols as a kid, growing up and finding your motivation and your craft as a designer, is definitely one of the things that inspired us to start Hyperfocus. So again, thank you for joining us. If you've made it to this part of the video, thank you very much. I'd just like to say, don't forget to subscribe if you've not, because we have a ton of stuff coming up. We have a board over there, covered in post-it notes with lots and lots of ideas of things that are going to be coming up. It's pretty exciting. And now we're in the new studio, we can start to make proper content and be a bit more regular with the stuff that we're doing. We'd love for you to come on that journey with us. So please subscribe, like the channel. Definitely helps us to grow the channel, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.
Hi, I'm Paul. You might know me from my YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm awesome.
That's a good start. That's alright, huh?
Awesome.